We interrupt this program to bring you commercials. Wow. On with the show.
I freaking love Garfield. I'm not entirely sure why, but as a kid I thought Garfield was one of the greatest things in the world. I'd borrow comic compilation books from my school library, I was hyped as hell for the Garfield movie, and made sure I was taken to whatever fast food restaurant was selling Garfield toys with their kids' meals. This love of Garfield may stem from watching Garfield and Friends. The show was only played on Fox 8 at like 6:30 or 7am on a Saturday, right after Toonsylvania, a show I've never heard anyone ever talk about. Garfield and Friends aired from 1988 to 1994, so it was over for close to 10 years by the time I started watching it, which would explain its weird time slot. For some reason I fell in love with the show and even ended up buying not one but 2 DVD collections, which I watched endlessly in my childhood. Some of those episodes are etched into my memory forever. Because of all this I was incredibly excited to jump into season 1 and see if it still holds up.
Friends will care for you.
You folks have this confused. I'm real and you're animated.
The unique thing about Garfield and Friends is the "and Friends" part of the title. You see, each episode of Garfield and Friends is split into 3 segments. The first and last segments focus on Garfield, John and Odie, while the middle segments are based on another Jim Davis comic called US Acres, renamed Orson's Farm outside of America. Each segment is about 7 minutes long, with 1 to 3 quickies featuring each episode, which basically take a panel from the comics and then animates them. The first thing that strikes you about the Garfield segments is that it's literally the comics brought to life. They didn't alter anything about how the characters or locations are drawn in the comics, and it translates really well. There's something pretty special about seeing the comics literally being brought to life. Having said that, some of the environments are poorly drawn. The characters and John's house always look great, but when they move to another location or go somewhere on a much grander scale than a simple house, the animation quality starts to drop. It's not a massive issue because the overwhelming majority of episodes take place at John's house, but it can be a little off-putting at some stages. I think it would be poor form of me to not mention Garfield's voice at this point too. Garfield is voiced by Lorenzo Music, who practically defined what Garfield's voice is. It fits perfectly, and I feel like it has become iconic and synonymous with Garfield, kind of like Kevin Conroy with Batman.
Un momento, I have an idea. Attention bees! Larger bee in your presence. Buzz, buzz. This is my territory now. The old Big B routine works every time.
If you look at the more recent The Garfield Show, Garfield's voice is done by Frank Welker, but it's essentially the same as Music's performance. Even with the casting of Bill Murray in the live-action movie, Murray's voice is quite similar to Music's performance in Garfield and Friends. Garfield and Jim Davis get a lot of hate for being lazy, which I never knew until I watched a video by Captain Christian where he shat on the series. I think it'd be completely unfair to call this show lazy, as at the very least, season 1 has a lot of creative and interesting ideas. One of these ideas is pretty evident in Ode to Odie, which is an entire segment done in rhyme. I was initially caught off guard by this, but I found it oddly enjoyable once I got into it.
Go near these mangy mutts. Odie never comprehends. He decided to make friends. When they saw this shy intruder, they could scarcely have been ruder.
One segment has a truly disturbing Freaky Friday type body switch moment in a dream sequence, but instead of just switching bodies, John's head is on Garfield's body and Garfield is morphed into a human. It just looks all so very wrong, but it was still an entertaining segment. A big part of the humour is several of the running gags that the show has. There are constant references to the Klopman diamond being sent to Abu Dhabi and being spluttered, while in later seasons tapioca pudding gets referenced a bunch. This show actually taught me what the hell the Klopman diamond and Abu Dhabi were as a kid. One thing I'm still hung up on is whether Garfield can talk. He explicitly says in one episode that he can't talk, but numerous times throughout the season humans seem to be able to understand him as if he's speaking English. Perhaps I should just mark it down as them being able to decipher his body language and other things of that nature. It still begs the question why Odie can't talk though. All the other dogs and various other animals can speak, so why is Odie the only one who can't communicate? I might be looking too far into what is a kids animated show, but it's something that has confounded me for years.
Hey John, look what's new from Cadbury. New Cadbury Garfield. New Cadbury Garfield in delicious Cadbury milk chocolate. Or extra delicious Cadbury milk chocolate and caramel. You can get them in family bags too. And they taste, how do they taste, Garfield? Great tasting new Cadbury Garfield. Get yours before Garfield gets them all.
Now this is the part where I have to talk about the Orson's Farm parts of the season. Orson's Farm features a much bigger cast of characters compared to the Garfield segments. Orson the pig, Roy the rooster, Wade the duck, Bo and Lanolin the sheep, and Booker the chicken are basically all main characters. There's also Sheldon, who is literally an egg with legs. One episode is focused on Sheldon being afraid to hatch from his egg. Orson attempts to help him, and at the end of the episode another egg hatches out of the egg. Sheldon is a walking, talking egg.
Almost out! Think out! Think out! Think out! Sheldon, under your shell was
Another shell.
I guess I'm just an egg. That's all I am. Just a poor little defenseless egg.
The Orson's Farm segments seem to be focused on a much younger audience than the Garfield ones. Each of these segments is focused on teaching a specific moral or lesson, but they're so overtly heavy-handed. You're basically being bashed over the head with whatever moral they're teaching for 7 minutes, and it all becomes way too preachy. So many other shows manage to go the route of making their episodes teach a moral without being so overt. Every Orson's Farm segment also features a song, which most of the time is basically them just slapping you in the head with the moral they're teaching. The songs honestly play a huge part in making it all come off as really preachy. The catchiness and quality of them vary wildly, with some of them being good and others being downright terrible.
Just stay cool. Don't get uptight, just stay cool. Don't let little things get to ya. Everything will be alright, just stay cool.
The season is only 13 episodes long, which means you only have to sit through 13 of these 7-minute segments. Despite this, you'll start getting annoyed by them like halfway through the season, which ends up making it a huge slog to get through. If they scaled back the intense focus on morals, I think these segments would have been way more enjoyable, as there are some really cool episodes in here.
The great Garfield will now perform a triple somersault while eating those good-looking Garfield fruit snacks.
Garfield fruit snacks. Pinky.
Here goes.
1, 2, 3, have a nice trip. Uh-oh.
Gotcha. Oh, just a dream. What? That clown's in my fruit snacks.
Now Mickey the Clown fruit bits in marked boxes of Garfield fruit snacks. Great tasting.
And good looking.
Season 1 of Garfield and Friends is solid. Having been such a big fan in the past, I know there are much better episodes in later seasons, but the first 13 episodes are no pushover. The biggest problem is the preachiness of Orson's Farm episodes. I don't recall if this does happen, but I hope they tone it down in the future. Wikipedia says the songs are only used from seasons 1 to 3, so I feel like season 4 onwards could be a lot better on that front, considering much of my frustration stemmed from those songs. Overall, this is a decent season in my hopefully not too biased opinion.